This is the theme of setback and misery. The viewer is cheated. Select frames. And then we see him typing, right? And it looks like he's typed a good number of pages. But Annie then is going to come in and say that she's not going to like the first draft pages. And she's going to tell him to start over. What you have written is not fair, right? And here she is coming in, telling him that the pages are not fair, that these draft pages are not going to work, and that he's going to start over. And he's actually surprised that she's so attentive to his work. But he forgets that Annie is a fan. How many times has she said, I'm your number one fan? Now, I haven't heard her say that in a long time. Since this part of the movie. At the beginning of the movie, she was saying that all the time. She had the piggy say it, in a sense, right? His name was Misery, or her name was Misery, and so she was talking, I'm your number one fan. But she stopped saying that. She hasn't said that, and it could be because after reading that untitled book, her whole demeanor has changed. Something about that book having no nobility and having all that obscene language has changed her view of Paul. We don't hear her say anymore that I'm your number one fan. And so she's saying here to him that you're going to have to start over. And that it's just not fair. It's what you have written is just not fair. And he said, I want to value you. I want to, respect what you say. But he's kind of accusing her of being kind of harsh, right? And so then Annie goes into this narrative. So she's telling this story about Rocket Man and how in a previous episode, he was trying to get out of the car, and then it went over the cliff or something like that, and then he died. But then when they came back and watched it and reviewed the previous episode, Rocket Man tries to get out of the car before the cliff. Before he goes over the cliff, he jumps clear. And Annie is suggesting that the viewer is cheated through the film, that this is not what happened before. He didn't get out of the car. And she's basically telling him that that he didn't free himself, right? What this says about Annie, it goes back to the attentiveness, that she's much more attentive as an audience, as a fan, as a viewer of another person's work. And that I've heard many people say, many writing instructors, many film producers, many writers of fiction, science fiction, that once you create that world, whatever that world is for the science fiction series, you cannot deviate, because there are people who are loyal to science fiction and fantasy worlds. And when you sort of change the game, they notice right off. Right? Well, Annie is no different. She has read all of Paul Sheldon's books, and she knows how they should go. And trying to change the way Misery Chastain is represented in the book and the world that she inhabits is not going to fly. And so she's saying that you cannot cheat the audience. They know much more than you realize. She is a walking knowledge base of Paul Sheldon's work and what he has written. And so you are not going, she's basically saying to Paul, you are not going to cheat me. I know what's going on with Misery Chastain. I know throughout the series what she has done, what she's about, what her character is, what the other characters are. You cannot fool me into believing that she's that she can't be revived or something like that, that her misery can't be revived. I know misery. That's really what Annie is saying. I know misery, both misery as a concept, a noun or whatever, and Misery Chastain in the book. I know Misery, and you cannot tell me any different than what I have experienced, what I have read about through your books, what I know about Misery. So you're going to have to do a much better job because you cannot fool me. So Paul is kind of shocked at how she's retelling this story. But you also have to say that Paul needs to be shocked at the idea that someone could be so in tune with his work and he not know it. See, this is a learning opportunity for Paul Sheldon, that people have been taking Misery Chastain in the Misery series very seriously, and that you wanting to kill her off leaves a lot of these people without any other direction. That no, you may not have wanted Misery to become your life, and you didn't plan on writing it the rest of your life, but it has become their life. And it was very irresponsible for Paul to just immediately kill off Misery without any warning to anybody that he was going to do that. And you might say, well, he has every right to do whatever he wants to do with his book. Sure. But he also has a responsibility to his viewing audience. They care. What if every science fiction writer says, okay, who cares if I make this change in the world making of the novel or the series or the film series or whatever? It's my prerogative. I have creative license to do that. Then you're going to lose your fan base, because people really, they know that world. You know, they believe in that world. They inhabit that world. They go to Comic-Con just to be a part of that world in a visual and physical sense. They have book parties and reading parties and other types of parties just for that world. They dress up like that. They put on the garb. They become that. How many times have you seen people go to a Harry Potter book signing and they're all dressed up in the garb of Harry Potter and all his friends? They care about that world, whatever that world is. And so he has not been paying attention to his audience. He, like I said, when he first likely came into this, he needed money, and he pushed the book in order to get it published, in order to get money. And then it took on a life on his own, and he didn't realize that it was taking on a life on his own, and that now after 8 books, I'm going to have to shut it down. But again, that's irresponsible, because you have too many people who care about it. And so I think this is part of his learning process too, because he's realizing these looks that he has given Annie have been about maybe confusion, Lord, is she strange, or man, I got to get out of here type looks. I'm like, what in the world is going on with this woman type looks? But this is a look that's a little different, that he didn't realize who was really standing before him. And this is a look that's going to come much earlier than another look, when he's actually shocked about her violence towards him. But I feel like this is a look that's kind of revelatory, that he didn't realize what he was doing. I don't think he's had the full revelation of his part, the part that he plays in a reader's life. But I think on some level he's going to take heed, because then when he starts all over again, he writes better drafts, and it is much more acceptable to Annie. And something about her correcting him, because he's going through a correction. When you go through setback, you go through correction. When part of the 7 stages of setback is correction. That he's willing to be corrected, because then the quality of writing actually changes for the next draft. And so this is where Annie is retelling that story, and she gets very animated. And it just, what it does is, it doesn't to me reveal Annie as having a mental issue. It reveals to me Annie having a passion for the story. You know, a lot of times people make stories very complicated when they are writing scripts or writing a novel, and so it's hard to follow. And then if it's hard to follow, it's going to be hard for the reader to follow. And basically all Annie is doing is retelling a story that she learned from years ago and trying to make the connection that to Paul, that you cannot cheat your audience. We know much more than you realize. And to me, it looks like she's kind of, has a mental issue going on right here. But no, I think Annie is just excited and passionate about her ability to recognize story and how important it is that you get the story straight. Because if you don't get the story straight, you're going to have a lot of problems with the plot development and scene descriptions and character descriptions and any other thing that you are trying to accomplish in that work. So I feel like it's much more passionate about what she is trying to reveal about story. So then she goes into her retelling of Paul's series, right? That she goes into really specific detail that kind of reminds him that sometimes you have written something so long and you want to be separated from it so bad that you forget some of the main details of your own work. And so she's reminding him of what Misery Chastain was about, what was going on with the other characters. And this should be something that kind of encourages him to rewrite the draft. It works almost like mentoring as well. Annie trying to mentor him back to writing Misery. Now, of course, she's mentoring him back to his setback, though. But she's also mentoring out of his setback, because if he doesn't do this, he's going to remain there. If he doesn't get to the end of the book, it's going to be even more challenging for him to stay there. So it's both mentoring in a sense that mentoring him about his own work and what he has done and how much of an impact it has and how much he needs to know this in order to rewrite the draft. But it's also mentoring him out of his setback, his current setback, so that he can because the setback is the draft that she's saying is not going to work. And so now he needs to be mentored out of that setback in order to write a better draft so that Annie can accept it. And then once she's able to accept it, then he continues to write and write and write until the end of that book. And so Paul Sheldon, again, I think he's shocked. I don't think he's shocked by the fact that she may have a mental problem. He's shocked by how much she knows. Just how much she knows. Here it is again. He's been thinking he's just been writing a book for his own financial stability, but he's been writing a book for people to save them out of themselves, to bring them out of themselves. Whatever happiness, she said at the beginning of the movie that his misery series is what brought happiness to her. That's what brought happiness. That's why I don't think he should let go of the series. I think he should keep the series and also write serious work according to his standards. And so, because it helps people. And so she's telling him where he needs to begin at the end, in a sense, to rewrite the second draft. All right, like, subscribe, and visit. Like the video, subscribe to the channel, hit the notification bell for more discussions. You can visit my YouTube channel for further film analysis. It's Favorites Film Analysis as the title of the channel. You can always send me an email and ask me a question, reginayfavorites@yahoo.com. My Overcoming Setback, 5 Keys for Entering and Exiting Correction book will become available around October 2021. I'm still doing some editing. The book does not focus on film analyses, but I use the content that I created for the book to support my my perceptions of setback used as a theme in select films. So when the book becomes available, I will send out a notification, video, audio. Thank you very much for visiting the channel.